يا أهلا وسهلا فيكم ببرنامجكم سماشيات، البرنامج اللي بنقدم فيه كل التغطيات للفعاليات وأهم الأحداث اللي بنغطيها بسماشي. وبما إنه باقي بس 4 أيام لستيب أنيوير اللي راح يكون معكم من 29 ل 31 مارس من هذا العام، الحدث الافتراضي اللي راح يجمع العديد من رواد الأعمال والأمور المتعلقة بالتقنية في عالمنا العربي. راح ناخذكم بأرشيف ستيب من العام الماضي ونحكي عن تغير سلوك المستهلك تحديدا في المدفوعات وأمور المتعلقة في الدفع. خليكم معنا وتابعوا.
Thanks so much. Great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I know it's the end of a day of many panels and many interactive sessions that many of you would have had on STEP. Never a dull moment, anywhere, anytime, any place. Lots to learn, lots to ask, lots to also put back into the ecosystem, right? As STEP is all about the ecosystem. Today, we have a panel joined by the people that was kindly introduced by your Master of Ceremonies. But I think what I want to do is I'd like to do two things very clearly. I'd like to introduce the topic of conversation, and then I'd like to introduce each of the panelists, and then we'll go straight into conversation with everyone here. So starting off with, there's been a massive change in consumer behavior and trends when it comes to payments. That's something all of us have understood from 6 months ago when COVID has happened. There's been a lot of changes in these trends of payments with consumer behavior, but definitely been acceleration. Much like monetization happened in India, WeChat, Alipay in Asia, and then where you've had M-Pesa in Africa. All moments to mark these changes now accelerated. And with that in mind, that's the topic of today. We couldn't have had a better grouping of panelists. So let me take a chance to introduce them all very quickly. We have Khalil Alami. Khalil is the CEO of one of the online payment gateways you all know very well. Historically in the market, they're one of the first. It's called Teller. Khalil himself has 2 decades of experience in the financial services sector, including 18 years in the payments and cards industry, with a focus on payment infrastructure and system implementation. Good evening, Khalil. Welcome.
Good evening and good afternoon, Gaurav and everyone. Thank you for the nice intro.
The second guest we have is something of a celebrity when it comes to the startup world, because he is one of the first second generation of founders in the region. We have Mr. Hossam Arab. He's a rare breed indeed, who started off with trailblazing with Namshi in the market, now returns with Tabby. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience when it comes to consumer digital transactions and experiences across the ecosystems, not less when it comes to payments. Good evening, Hossam.
Hey, Gaurav. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the very generous introduction, Gaurav.
Last but not least, we have Mr. Mohanad Ebweni. Did I say that correctly, sir?
Yep, Mohanad Ebweni.
Ebweni. I love that name.
Yeah.
So he's the co-founder and CEO of Hyperpay. Again, a very well-known player when it comes to online payments. He's currently looking at growing more and more and more across the region. I'm sure he'll elaborate on with us. He too has 18 years of experience in the online, e-commerce, gaming, payment industries. And he's grown successful other businesses before, like OneCard. But now he's here with us today to tell us more about the ecosystem. Welcome, Mohanad.
Thank you very much.
So with the introductions done and the topic well entrenched in our minds, I'd like to kick off by first saying and stating the obvious. COVID is here to stay. It's not gone, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it's something that all of us have to face when it comes with how payments are being affected. Khalil, I'd like to start with you. When
Sure.
COVID hit, and now we're seeing trends in payments changing, over the first quarter of this year, let's say from January, February, March, COVID hits, COVID takes place, and then the 6 months which have followed afterwards, which finds us here in August. What do you see as, from your point of view of Teller specifically, as the biggest changes you've seen in consumer behavior and merchant behavior, both? Because I don't think we can really separate one conversation from the other. So
Sure.
two-part question to you, Khalil, and then I'll pass it around to the rest of our guests. What are you seeing in changes from a Teller perspective at the consumer side and the merchant side?
Great. Well, thank you very much, Gaurav, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a great question. There's no doubt that prior to the COVID pandemic, we were seeing growth in e-commerce, but there's no doubt in my mind, and it's quite obvious that the COVID pandemic has been a stimulant in order to fast track the rapid change and move into e-commerce and a cashless society. Consumers' mindsets have shifted towards digital after experiencing, convenience, the security, the different methods of e-commerce that were, deployed throughout these past 6 months that you've mentioned. We've had double-digit growth prior to the COVID, but of course now we have double-digit growth in higher numbers in the last 6 months. The businesses are also running towards, whoever missed out on being already e-commerce enabled are running towards, getting that payment e-commerce layer built into their business. So the customers and the businesses both adopted this change and started trusting the cashless payment methods. That's what we've seen most recently. Just like we mentioned, the world has finished going through this irreversible phase, responding rapidly to the effect of COVID, adjusting accordingly, behavior changes. And now what we are seeing is that the world is moving into the adaptation phase by taking into consideration all these precautionary regulations, implementing social distancing, and creating this new social distancing economy that's what we want to call it now. So this is the next phase. What do we do in a social distancing economy? And this obviously opens up a new opportunity for financial payment services or fintech companies and non-fintech companies to come up with creative platforms and more systems that are more resilient, agile, user-friendly, because it's all about being user-friendly. And this is, again, an example of that. We see what social media platforms have done, like Google partnering up with Citibank, Facebook looking into the e-commerce and creating Facebook financial services and what have you. So this is what we've seen.
Teller, Khalil, I'd really love to know more from a Teller perspective as well, because you've got really rich data access to. I mean, how many countries is Teller in right now?
Indirectly, we work in 8 countries, and directly we work in 3 major countries.
And so from that perspective, where are you seeing consumer and merchant changes in behavior due to this?
Yes, so we are Dubai based, and we operate as well in Saudi Arabia quite extensively. In Dubai, we've seen a lot of, while Dubai was famously known for e-commerce, but still we saw major brands that missed out on the e-commerce part while the pandemic. So we see a rush coming in as far as numbers coming in, people, big brands moving into e-commerce as Teller. At the same time, in Saudi, we see a rush in different sectors of, also adopting the same thing. So as far as the consumer behavior and the data that I can share with you, so we saw, for example, a huge rush into coffee machine sales. All of a sudden, people are sitting at home. Who would have thought that coffee machines would be sold out all throughout Dubai? People are sitting at home; they want to drink coffee, so everybody invested in that. Home gym equipment also, and a trend that we saw after the opening of the country back up in complete, economy going back into full force. we see statistics of 37% of people that invested in home equipment are not going back to the gym. So that talks about the behavior shift of people might go back to the gym, but there's a third that are not going back to the gym anymore. So they're going to continue working out at home. These are different trends that we've seen that I can share with you at this moment in time. There's so much more than this, but this is very specific, to Corona and COVID-19 pandemic.
It'll be interesting to see where that sticks in the short term and the long term. But thank you for that insight, Khalil. I think Mohannad, same question goes for you, right? Now, while Khalil might have some data, you also have some other trends and data that you're seeing. I'm sure you'll see similar trends. What else are you seeing besides what must be similar trends in your ecosystems that you play in? And how many countries are you present in right now to have that perspective? So how far does your visibility stretch? Mohannad, you're on mute.
Sorry. Actually, yeah, we are working in Jordan, KSA, UAE, Egypt, Lebanon, and now we just launched Bahrain and Oman. And we are very focused actually in Saudi Arabia because the market's really big and actually keeping us busy all the time. I will talk more about Jordan and Saudi Arabia since Khalil focused in Dubai. In Saudi Arabia, we know that there is a government mandate to push all payments to be electronic, even before the pandemic. And of course, it's accelerated after the pandemic. So it's already, we were seeing a growth, an amazing growth actually. In the past 3 years, we are over 200% growth year over year in hyperpay. And of course, through the pandemic, especially from March till maybe today, we are seeing like triple digits or maybe more in May, in April and May, actually more than triple growth in hyperpay. If we need to talk about the trends or what's happened with the users, we all know that most of the merchants, they stopped. Entertainment, airline, government, manpower, all these merchants, or those merchants are stopped doing any business. Some of them till today, actually. So the focus was changed to food delivery, anything delivery, which we have a couple of merchants where you can ask for anything from the market. So it's not necessary to be listed on the website. And of course, as Khalil said, home accessories, bed accessories, actually mattress, pillows. I don't know, maybe because people there start to sleep more, or they want to sleep in a better way. We find a huge demand on like garden things, gardening accessories, barbecues, maybe some furnitures.
It's the same trend again. Everything's centered around the home.
Yeah, actually.
Anything that's related with a home activity.
Yeah, of course. After a while, we start to find office furniture at home. So people just start ordering tables, laptop tables, laptop holders, or maybe some electronics, printers.
But tell me something, Mohannad, from your perspective, how quickly have merchants adapted into your network? Have you seen a sharp spike in merchants? Have you seen a sharp spike in existing merchant trends? Where have you seen merchants also adapting? Small, medium, large? What are you seeing there?
Luckily, we were ready in hyperpay with a very nice product. It's called Hyperpay, which is like an invoicing system, very advanced, customized invoicing system. So we managed to onboard like 400 merchants in 1 month. I would say like 15% of them are big names and big brands that.
So you're seeing the larger brands trying to pivot.
Yeah, they were not ready for the e-commerce, and all of a sudden they need to go live today. So the fastest thing is because still they don't have an proper e-commerce website or anything, and still, if they need to go with the normal way, they need a minimum of 2 weeks to go live, while in Hyperpay we managed to take them live in 1-2 days.
So short-term is invoicing, long-term they'll build out ecosystems of their own and then
exactly. And still they are using the invoicing, some of them, because some of those merchants, they have like customized orders, and their catalog system or the e-commerce website is still not ready, and they find it that it's okay to use the Hyperpay technology, and they are perfectly using it actually. So we'll definitely, we saw a lot of big brands, they go live, they went live immediately. Of course, mid-size and startups, I would say it's unlimited number till today. I mean, it's like every month we have something between 500 to 1,000 new merchants. And to be honest, they are putting a huge pressure on us just to help everyone. You know, we doubled the team, and still, I believe it's not enough. So we are trying to help everyone to go live. We are trying to help the vision of Saudi Arabia for transforming to cardless technology. I would say, for one thing, just quickly, I'm sorry, to help this trend to stay and to help people to stay online and to help this shift, there is a mandate also on the government. There's a mandate on banks and merchants. It's not only the end users. So we have, first of thing, for the government, at least in Saudi Arabia, they make things really clear and easy. Same in Jordan and definitely in UAE. Banks still the bottleneck somehow, because they are taking their time, accepting the merchants and enabling the mid for them. Now, for us as a payment consumer, because we are the middle between the merchant and I think the trend now for to make things easy, the most important thing is to activate like pay as you like payment option, which is enabling the social media, payments for everyone. This will make things happen. I think everyone knows that paying for a game in Apple Store or anything, it's easy because it's immediately, whatever, just one click on the phone and that's it. So we have to reach this level of payment. We have to reach this easy in checkout, this easy on enabling the AI technologies, just to know your customers, to know how he would like to we would like to pay in a better way. So all these things will help this trend to stay.
I couldn't agree more, Mohanad. I think,
yeah,
I think these are the changes the ecosystem definitely craves and wants, and that's how companies like yourself and Teller exist, And actually,
exactly.
that's a very neat segue onto Hossam as well, right? Because and I think that's the case in point. So thank you for your insights on your review.
Thank you.
And
I will leave the rest for Hossam, because this is a very, very extremely important thing what Hossam is doing. But I will not jump into Hossam. He's the guy for this.
Thank you.
So I will leave it to him.
So before Hossam, I come to you with the viewpoint on consumer and merchant propositions on trends and changes and adoptions of how things are changing with payment technology and what they are doing on both sides, the consumer and the merchant. I just want to summarize quickly, what Khalil and Mohanad have put in. It's very clear that there are short-term changes and there are long-term changes yet to be seen with this advance in changes in consumer behavior. We don't know how long will people continue to stay doing home-based activities and center their lives around that. And when COVID post-vaccine returns, how long these will happen, or things will change or go back to normal as a spring. What we can say is it's important that we try and get the ecosystem to grow as a whole. And I think that's where, Hossam, you play a very unique part, right, in this ecosystem with your BNPL. it's not just a facilitation of payment or an opportunity to do payments, it's the creative aspect of how payments is done or accessible from a merchant perspective or a consumer perspective to grow the entire pie. Because instead of saying transaction volume moving from one place to another place and the whole pie of transactions being the same and stagnation, BNPL, which is what you do, buy now, pay later, can actually grow the. So I'd like to first get two questions for you, essentially, is what trends are you seeing? So please, I'd love that insight.
Great. So we were kind of lucky in our timing, right? So we came in trying to change behavior, trying to change behavior in one way from cash on delivery by providing them an alternative to cash. And secondly, we were also trying to create this consumer credit enablement online. And this was right before the pandemic. And what happened is, with the pandemic, we didn't really need to change behavior much, right? The behavior change was kind of enforced. So there was a shift and a mandated shift away from cash, which made us a very attractive proposition to merchants because now they couldn't offer their customers cash, and that alternative had become available. And then the other thing that has happened is the tightening of credit. That's where we also came in. The merchants realized that, fine, there is a short-term spike in demand today because of a need where people are at home and there's not much to do. But coming out of that, what does consumer spending look like? I think a lot of merchants realize that spending is going to decline, and with the banks tightening credit, how do we start to stimulate demand again? So yeah, I think our timing was very fortunate, where we've come in and provided these two tools for merchant features for customers. Now, what we did see is conversion rates for a lot of merchants that switched off cash, right? So let's say between 60 to 75% of e-commerce did see tightening of credit for airline hospitality. Credit based on your personal. Interestingly, we've seen a very, very fast adaptation of BNPL online by the customers. And if I were to look at the split between
like to ask you a slightly more difficult question, if I may, which is, do you have access on the consumer side of data much? Because usually as a facilitator, as a payment gateway, you don't always.
Right. So what we've seen is an uprise of people, couples. Maybe the wife wants to support, the job. The husband lost his job. They want to support by selling maybe baked goods, homemade, I don't know, organic pickles or something like that, as becoming an entrepreneur very quickly, and in order to support their family while they, go back to the job market and find another job. So we've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, trying to sell crafts or home baked goods or stuff like that, and having no website, no online presence whatsoever other than social media. And this is where our technology kicked in. And we enable those kinds of entrepreneurs, providing them with a mobile app where they can create a payment link to share with their customers over social media channels like WhatsApp or Instagram or what have you, in order to send it to their customers, where they can just click a link, get a payment page, enter the payment, and immediately the payment is received. Goods are delivered. So this is the type of things. But at the same time, not all of these guys had banks. And what do you do there? Bank accounts, I mean. So what do you do there? This is a bottleneck. Were the banks ready for opening a bank account online completely? Are the neobanks, were they ready? Yes and no. Not all banks were ready. So we had that as a bottleneck. So what we've come up with different ways in order to support these guys is onboard them and hold payment until the lockdown was removed. They could go and open a bank account, and then we can release payment after full KYC and due diligence. So we had to come up with creative ideas in order to facilitate such endeavors. At the same time, we've seen that in multiple markets, across all markets. I mean, to be honest with you, it's not us. It was harder in markets where there was full lockdown, where people could not leave the house for over 2 months. Countries like Jordan, but at the same time, it was easier in other countries. The e-commerce world, there's two bottlenecks in my opinion. One is the banks, which maybe Mohanad touched on it a little bit. At the same time is the actual e-commerce technology that you have. And this is why in order to support and overcome these obstacles at Teller, we created the merchant app. At the same time, we became today the one-stop shop for any merchant or of any kind, entrepreneurs, SMEs, what have you, that want to come and go online, by giving them the full A to Z, even from the website build all the way to the actual store, shopping cart, everything integrated with full payment and backed up with partner banks and what have you. So in order to push them in order to go into the e-commerce.
So what merchant segments in particular from the entrepreneurship piece do you see as being, off the top of your head, being the most prevalent and coming to the forefront that you've seen a spike in terms of people that wanted to facilitate a business to take online payments?
Yeah, so as Teller, we specialize in startups and SMEs. We don't go for the big brand names and multinationals. We do have those, but we specialize really. We like to support startups and SMEs. We've seen a lot of home businesses selling different goods that are like crafts and baked goods and what have you. We've seen certain traders that want to, all of a sudden, want to flush the market with home equipment, home gym equipment, because they were sold out all over the place. We've seen a lot of catering, more not just home baked goods, but more on a catering food delivery services. We've seen a lot of smaller logistic companies trying to enter into the in the early stages of the lockdown. Many countries saw a shortage in delivery. You could order stuff, but it was not delivered immediately the same day or the next day. You had to wait a week and 10 days to get the deliveries. So we saw a lot of new startups that are in the logistics and the last mile delivery that we enabled them in order to enter those markets. So I think that was the number one segment to answer your question.
Thanks a lot, Khalil, for that insight. And Mohanad, from your point of view, I'd love to talk about frameworks, right? We talked about what merchant segments were becoming more popular, or entrepreneurs were looking to access the online ecosystem from a payments or a consumer interaction point of view to conduct their businesses. From your viewpoint, I'd love to talk about ecosystems, countries where the frameworks are built or moving, in your opinion, from what you can see, the quickest and most flexible to enable entrepreneurs to do exactly this: get licenses, move on. What have you seen as trends? Are certain ecosystems in countries moving faster than others? Have others just been built better suited from the beginning, so they caught the upswing to allow and issue all these licenses, to enable people to do business from home? What have you seen, and where do you feel is most conducive ecosystem, and what's changing or not? Can you do that? And then
Sure.
I'd love to have your 5 minutes on that, and then we'll do a summation of the evening.
Sure. First of all, we have to know that we are in the Middle East, like 18% in terms of internet penetration above the world. So we have the consumers ready, and we have the market ready. Just we are working on transforming those ready clients to like doing business, or to be a clients or merchants for others. So in terms of regulations, I would say definitely Saudi Arabia is the best in applying all these trends, and they start really early, maybe since 2 years or 2.5 years, when they established Saudi payment as an independent entity from the government. And since that date, to be honest, and I'm always saying that, it was the only country where it keep us busy, and they are working faster than us in putting rules and regulations. Yeah, actually, it's amazing. I'm always saying
so it's like UPI and NPCI in India, the same sort of common frameworks.
Exactly. So in Saudi Arabia, they were ready almost in everything, even from because in Saudi Arabia, doing business from home, especially for the females, it's a normal things since long time, and especially on let's say some fashion, especially abaya, or maybe some food cooking, or local food cooking, some accessories. This is very normal in Saudi Arabia. It's extremely big. So they legalized this 2 years back, and they have like Ministry of Labor, they have a platform for this actually, and they can open banks, even if a bank account for payment, even if they don't have a registered company, but they have to be registered on the platform on the
Ridwan, are you seeing other ecosystems catching up or moving to catch up, or you've seen other people already catching up?
Yeah. Now Saudi Arabia, they are catching up, and they are moving extremely fast. Now Jordan, they are trying to catch up, but unfortunately, it's not stable and it's not clear yet. I would love to see Jordan moving much faster. UAE, it's good, and they already legalized most of the things. And the good thing of UAE that you keep doing your business. They will not stop you unless they have something solid to put a rules to that. So it's moving. Egypt is moving. But I would say Oman, Bahrain, it's really good also. Oman is moving now very well. Kuwait, the same thing. And actually, Kuwait, they open it over. And we know what's going on in Kuwait now. So I believe the whole Middle East is moving on. But if we are comparing countries to countries, I would say definitely Saudi Arabia is the best.
Okay, thank you for that. I think in summation, there's a lot of movement that's happening in the ecosystem. We have yet to see what's going to be long term and what's short term. What we do know is there's very active engagement. There's active engagement from an entrepreneurship perspective. There's an active engagement from people like Hussam, who are doing the consumer side of enabling services. I think which was a missing piece in this ecosystem, where there was no competition to existing players to offer services now based on a connected ecosystem. Like Mohammed, you pointed out, everyone's online. You can get data points, you can get data, you can do better data services, and there are people who are left out and who aren't able to do it. I think we've all got to wait for frameworks to be the last missing piece of the puzzle to really enable everything at the maximum capacity possible. And you can imagine that everyone's keen to do it. I think in summation, from my side, it's going to be a very, very interesting next 12 months to see where things stay and where things change completely. So before we sign off and we go into the Q&A room, I believe, which is later on enabled, Hussam, any insights you have for consumers who are looking at credit or who don't have access to credit? Any inferences from your side on how they can, use your services or being able to have access to Tabby and what it does?
The idea of Tabby and players like us globally is to enable access to consumer credit regardless of what your access looked like before, right? It is what we're trying to do here is improve consumer behavior online, and behavior specifically. I guess in our market, the behavior that we used to look at is how do customers behave when they're paying for their orders in cash, because there was significant failure rate on cash on delivery orders, and so. What we want to do is try to train people to start moving away from this bad behavior. And if you are making an order online, then make sure that you actually take it and you're serious about it and you're going to pay for it. Similarly, now going forward, what we're going to train or hope to improve behavior on is just how serious it is to maintain a strong credit profile. Right. And what we're going to do over time is as you start to repay and as you start to behave more responsibly online, you get access to more and more credit that it will enable you to buy more and do more online. So I think, overall, it is how do we improve consumer behavior in order to improve the overall ecosystem? In the past, most of the risk of online transactions was sitting with the merchant. And I think that was a large obstacle to scaling online businesses, right? Where about 20 to 25% of merchants' orders were always being sent back because of customers not accepting cash on delivery orders. That was definitely an obstacle to scale, right? So it affected cash flow, it affected operations, it affected a lot of different parts of the business, and was an obstacle to growth. And if we can start to all behave more responsibly as a consumer base, then I think that empowers the entire ecosystem online.
Thank you all for your time. I think if I can leave us all here and again, once again, thank you for the panel. Thank you for sharing your insights, sharing your time with all of us here today. One prediction I have for all of us 1 year from now is a conversation piece which will be discussing the power of millennials and how they've suddenly become the new banked player when it comes to having spend power in the ecosystem. I think we're going to find from gaming and online small ticket items, you're going to find a bigger shift to banked ecosystem players, whether it's millennials or the unbanked in general. And I think all three of you are going to be playing a major part in that. And hopefully the pie, as we say, will help towards stimulating growth, permanent growth, not short-term, but long-term growth for the entire ecosystems we're all present in today. So thank you again for your time and all your insights.